Hello everyone, and welcome back to another video. So goblins in nature can be very mischievous and chaotic little creatures. So what happens when you mix this love of chaos with divine vengeance and a supernatural vendetta that's lasted for thousands of years? You get a creature known as a Nilbog. Now typically in goblin society, the goblin falls very low on the goblinoid hierarchy, typically right around the same level of an underpaid janitor that needs to clean up the aftermath of a Taco Bell mukbang. Goblins need to deal with a lot of frustration in their daily lives. They get mistreated by the brutish bugbears, the cruel task-mastering hobgoblins, and of course the stray fireball from the wizard. And in goblin societies, where the goblins are treated very, very bad on a day-to-day basis, it's very common that they'll turn into a Nilbog. Nilbogs are these magical creatures that take the goblin's chaotic and mischievous nature and then kick it into overdrive. They have incredibly bizarre abilities too. For example, their feature, Nilbogism. Any creature that attempts to damage the Nilbog must first succeed on a DC 12 Charisma saving throw or be charmed until the end of the creature's next turn. A creature charmed in this way must use its action praising the Nilbog. The Nilbog can't regain hit points, including through magical healing, except through its reversal of fortune reaction. They also have some at-will spells like Mage Hand and Tasha's Hideous Laughter, and even if you manage to land a hit on one of these guys, they can simply use the reaction to negate any and all damage and heal instead. They get this through the lovely feature that I just mentioned, Reversal of Fortune. In response to another creature dealing damage to the Nilbog reduces the damage to 0 and regains an average of 3, or in this case 1d6 hit points. Even if you somehow manage to take out a Nilbog, the Nilbog can simply detach itself from the goblin it possessed, and then just possess another goblin, literally starting the chain all over again. The fear of attracting a Nilbog is so great in various Fey courts and goblinoid camps that goblins will literally be put in service just to stand as the acting Nilbog. This goblin is something akin to a jester and has the privilege of just doing whatever the hell they want to do. It's the belief that if you have at least one goblin running around like a little maniac and that they're well treated, it's enough to keep the Nilbog's spirit at bay and satisfied. And like the only mental image that I can possibly have for this is just that one little goblin running around like a freak of nature throwing pies at people, and then just some hoity-toity archfays like, oh, the audacity! And it's like, no, wait. Chill out, man. That's the jester. That's the Nilbog. You're like, oh, understandable. My mistake. And they just carry on right with whatever it is that Archfey do. Probably, like, taking people's names and junk. So it's anyways, though, that it's this kind of power that a lot of goblins yearn for. They want to become the jester because they're basically goblin royalty. But so when it comes to the Nilbog, it actually has a very interesting origin. As I mentioned earlier, the Nilbog is something that possesses other goblins, literally turning them into a Nilbog. And so the origin of the Nilbog itself actually begins a very long time ago. One of the gods in the goblinoid pantheon by the name of Maglubiet was on a warpath to slay every other goblinoid god of his pantheon and claim their power and portfolio for his own. However, one of these beings was a very spiteful sort. They shattered themselves into thousands of pieces, seemingly forgotten to the pantheon and to time, and it was believed that this god remained nameless so that Maglubiet wouldn't find them and destroy them the way that he had with the other goblinoid deities. And now, parts of this deity's will can essentially overshadow goblins and basically have them just run around creating all kinds of chaos. And now, personally, I'm very interested in some of the concepts that we don't get a ton of answers to. For example, let's say a goblin player character becomes possessed by a Nilbog. What happens? And now, yes, the lore says the goblins will become possessed and take on the abilities of the Nilbog, but however, looking at the stat block, there are a number of very striking similarities between a regular goblin and a Nilbog. And I know what you're saying, like, oh, well, Smiles, it's because they're both goblinoids, right? Kind of. Looking over the stat block, there are similarities to them because it's the Nilbog taking the goblin's form. But then, if this is the case, can we assume that a goblin PC becoming a Nilbog would make it stronger, would make the literal Nilbog possessing that goblin PC stronger? Would that character gain the Nilbog's abilities on top of their own original class features? And this too isn't even that much of a stretch. We actually see this kind of trend with lycanthropes, zombies, skeletons, and vampire spawn. And personally, I think it would be very interesting if you had a goblin PC that actually went towards something along this route, where they're aware of Nilbog's presence and essentially there's some sort of like trickery domain cleric, and they're trying to learn how to call on the spirit of Nilbog. But anyways though, my ramblings aside, how this creature would interact with PCs or even within your own game is of course up to you, the DMs. Let me know in the comments what you would actually do in this sort of situation and how you would run this. But regardless, that's all the time that I have today for this video. I hope you enjoyed it, and if you did, then please like the video and subscribe for even more D&D content. And in the meantime, keep smiling, keep scheming, and I'll see all of you next time.